Oh, you did not agree. I'm not making this assumption. Are you good if I record? Are you
Yeah,
good if I record? And if by any chance we're like, oh yeah, that was a really good piece, Isabel, you have my permission to use it. We'll
sure.
check. Okay.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah,
important to me because, you know, I called Martin the day after my talk and I said, is it okay to ask people for testimonials? I don't know how much this group, like, it's like, listen, we're here to be friends, not to be doing things like testimony. Like, I didn't know where the line was about people feeling burdened by my asking or really happy to. So that's why I'm checking with everybody.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing with TLC. Um, because as you look around at some of the history and the products and all this stuff, like, yep, there it is. They're all doing that. They're all, cross-selling, they're doing all kinds of stuff. Many of their names are on each other's books,
Yes,
and
I've
I
seen
mean,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I can understand and appreciate your, wanting to be gentle with this, so, I think it's good that you are basically being willing to ask and also checking in, if, is it okay? So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
and you were saying you see that a lot in TLC, and I think I was expecting the next part of your sentence to be, and either it's changed or it's more complicated than that, or like I didn't know. I thought you were going to have a but or something that no.
No,
So that is you really your point
no.
is that is what you see is collaboration.
Oh yeah, a lot, a whole lot.
Mhm.
And um, Martin asked me, I exchanged emails with him a few months ago, and I love him. He's just like, we're in love with each other,
Oh,
and
that's what I say. That's so
it's like,
funny. I say the
and
same thing.
it's like, I love you, and make sure you say hi to Nita, and I mean, that kind of stuff, right? And Mark, my husband, we're all loving each other. So it's just great. But we were having this conversation, similar conversation, and he said, well, what I see is that when there is a financial incentive, there's a lot of collaboration. And it's like, yeah, well, I get that. And so, I'm um and what prompted the conversation was um I'm starting to do some online work, which
Mm.
has never been my work. My work has always been one-to-one, private, working with CEOs and senior leaders.
Just
And,
checking you out. Yeah.
it's I'm feeling this call to extend the work further into the world,
Mm.
and feeling like, all of this amazing, profound work that I have done with people, um, we now don't have time to wait. The world is calling for our leaders, right? And the right kind of leaders, the leaders who have a real grounded sense of self and a sense of purpose and an understanding that um, their existence matters.
Mm. Yeah, you
And
use that
so,
in
yeah,
the thing I pulled up. It said about conscious leadership, and I'm obsessed with conscious leadership. And
yeah.
uh, I have a question for you. Do you have a connection to angels, or even including yourself being an angel?
I've been told that. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
when you
I've been
started,
told that.
so I'm very connected, right? I think you probably saw my ring.
Yeah.
I'm very connected to angels, and a lot of the work I do is actually it's not being an angel; it's about opening our wings. Because the way that I see wings is that
Yeah.
like they're like the transducers. They like bring in
Yeah.
information from the
Nice.
spirit world into the
Nice.
human body.
Yeah.
And when you, ooh, I'm getting chills now. When you started talking about being ready to take it to the one to many, my wings just started opening up, which
Yeah.
I assume I was picking up your wings, but there's a very
Yeah.
big wing opening for
Yeah.
you right
Yeah.
now. Is what it
Yeah.
feels like. Does that fit for you?
It definitely does. And it's it's been, well, for years and years, people have said to me, Cheryl, you need to be teaching this on a broader level. You need to be, and then when online started, it's like, you need to be doing online. And I would be like, I have no idea how you take what I do and translate that to online. I mean, that is not, I mean, it's all about one-on-one. It's all about my
Presence.
connecting to the individual. It's all about, because it's all download and it's all, I mean, all of that, right? And so it was interesting. It was COVID that got me convinced that it would actually, there was power in this. And because my clients, we couldn't get face to face, right? And so now my model was that we would spend 8-hour days together. I mean, we would get together. And so we would go very deep. And with people at that level, 2 hours, every couple of weeks doesn't cut it. I mean, that's a drive-by, it's like, yeah, forget it. And so we started, obviously you can't do 8 hours a day on the screen. You just can't. It's impossible because people would just melt.
Yes.
So I structured this whole thing where we would do like 2 hours on the screen, and we would have other calls in between. And it was so powerful. I thought, oh my God, this works. Oh my God, this works. And so then, so I started thinking, okay, and then I was approached by someone who was developing an app for people like us who hate doing this kind of stuff. It's like, I just want to do the work. I don't want to bother about how to build an app or how to send a tweet, or you forget it. And so he was building an app that was essentially would take all of people like us, all of our collateral material and all our assets, and put it in one place so that we could, access it, use it, set it up for trainings. We could do anything we want. And I'm like, well, Jay, if you can figure out how to do this with my stuff, yeah, fine, okay, I'll play. And I did not have much attachment
Stuff.
to the fact that it was actually going to work. And so, funny thing, he's in Australia, and the woman on his team who works with me is also in Australia. Well, shortly after we had started working, DC Cordova, Doria Cordova. Have you met Doria? Okay. So she's kind of amazing. And
TLC?
she has in global business school, and she's had it for many, many years. And she's connected to Bobby DePorter. And in fact, she collaborated with Bobby early on, and with Sherry, and they were all products of Bucky Fuller, right? Buckminster Fuller. And so anyway, Mark and I, my husband and I, had done Doria's business school in Thailand a few years ago. And so as a graduate, I mean, it's a week-long thing where it's a deep dive and it's intense, and it's like, oh my God. And it's mostly entrepreneurs from around the world and people who have started and sold businesses, and very successful people. So in 2 years ago, I guess, they had it in Australia, and she invited us to come back as graduates. You can come back. And so what I did when I was there was not only present, but did some coaching with some of the people there, and really got to be connected, right? And I mean, it was so much fun. And of course, I know, and I'm sure you can change somebody's life, in like 5 minutes. I mean, it is possible. I've done it my whole career, sitting next to people on an airplane.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, well, I don't know why you're telling me this, but let me tell you what I think. It's like, so So, and that stuff was happening there, right?
Mm.
Well, while I was there, the woman who had been working with me on this said, okay, this is what we're going to do. When you go there, we're going to tell them that you're going to do your first online workshop in October, because we were there in August. I'm like, huh? What do you mean? Yeah, people love to help. So you're going to say, oh, you guys, this is my first one, and I'd love your help, and I'd love you to,
Exactly.
And so, I'm like, oh my God, what? And so it all developed. We said that to them. So many of them showed up, and it was a 2-hour session,
Mm.
and it was so successful. I couldn't believe it. And we got real coaching done, and I mean, I was blown away. Now, I have all these reasons why I think it was successful. Of course, that's all, couldn't be just that it was successful, but it was because they knew me. We had developed a bond. They knew each other. It was easy for them to be vulnerable.
Mm.
They go down the
Nothing to
list,
do with
right?
what you created, of course.
Nothing. Nothing. So fast forward, now in the process of doing some 90-minute master classes that are leading up to a 3-month program that's going to start in May. And I'm learning a lot. Let me tell you that, learning a lot. And I'm learning a lot about myself. We've done one of those. And in that one, we didn't have a lot of interaction because I was like, look, we don't know this group. We don't know how many people are going to be here. Let's let them put questions in the chat, and we'll manage it that way. Well, it went fine. People loved it, had great feedback. I hated it. Because I like
Were you
this,
teaching
right?
Yeah.
I like this. I like back and forth. I like, really feeling the energy. I like all this stuff. And yeah, it was interesting. So that was a learning. Of course, they didn't know I hated it, but it's like, yeah, because obviously I got all that good feedback. So the next one's coming up next week, and we'll do some different things. And I still feel, a little, like, is this really what I need to do? And yet I know this is a vehicle to this, right? And to putting this out there and to giving people access to this work.
So when you say, is this really what I need to do you mean the specific funnel of the mastermind and the 3-month course? Or what did you mean specifically that
the
this?
online work, online work, yeah. And I mean, in terms of the online work, I'm like light years behind so many people who are in TLC, because that's what they've been doing for a long time. They went from Sage on the Stage to online Sage on the Stage many years ago. And I didn't. I was just like, yeah, no. No. So it's interesting. It's I think good growth for me. It's a way for me to own my brilliance and be able to share and invite people into this space so that they can grow and expand. And the ripple effect of what I do with one-on-one clients is huge. Well, and I know the ripple effect with this will be even bigger. And so
I have a what is the word? An insight download, something that comes to me that I wonder if I can share.
please share. Please share.
So in the intersection between what you want, your greater mission, which I really believe,
Yeah.
To right now, right? Like the way intention has become the thing, which is the 90 minute and the 3 months, you go from using my scale, you go from a 10 to what? Like when you do this funnel, what giving me a number one is like I'm totally red zone, 10 is I'm totally, I love it. Yeah, truth.
Well, yeah. So I'm not total red zone. I am, I would say probably a 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's the number that was coming to me.
Yeah.
And so you might already be doing this. That's why I'm just checking it out. If you go from here to here, right? However, it's then going to manifest, whatever realm it's going to manifest is going to be like a mix. It's like it's almost like if we were to be mathematical, 10 per 3 is 13 divided by 2, that's 6.5.
Right. Yeah.
So
Right.
right. So
Right.
can you keep staying here and then just sit in the quantum field right here? And because this may be the thing that becomes a 10 for you, this may be like this possibility you never even thought about is going to show up about the way for you
Yeah.
to have the one to many. But if you just sit, don't sit between the two, don't sit in here, you know, when you're like, oh, I don't want to do it, it's next this week,
Yeah.
just come back, like do not leave this seat,
Yeah.
and then stay open from this seat. Like, hey, universe, if you want me to do this mission, like freaking show me the way that everything
Yeah.
that I do becomes a 10.
I
And
love
so
it.
checking in how that lands.
I love it.
Mm,
And it's truth. And I know that. It's
mm.
absolute truth. And so the shift for me needs to be what I tell my clients to do. Not
Always.
be always not be attached to the outcome. Stay in the present and do what I do and be in my gift, and just let the universe
Show
do
you.
what it wants with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, you know what I heard you do, and tell me if this fits for you. I heard you take that three and then try to convince yourself rationally, but it is smart. You know, it's going to get my work to one to many. And I am sure you then move that three to like a 4, 5, 6, maybe, but it's not enough just to rationally move that. There's something that I'm not sure how that needs to bypass the rational. And I
Yeah.
don't not believe that you can actually shift that 3 to a 9 of that model, that funnel, but it's not the way you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
because
I
you
yeah.
have to be a 10 for everything you do, Cheryl. You're too powerful.
Yeah.
Your light is too powerful. So when you are not at a 10, you so quickly create things that are not 10s because you're just like, you put power behind every frequency you're
Yeah.
at,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 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 Well, it's interesting. Yeah, here I go to my head again. Uh, I just need to practice more staying in my heart.
10, the 10, the 10, the 10, the 10. You know, I don't know if you remember in the methodology. I always forget his name when I'm live. It drives me crazy. So, you know, first step is stop because you realize that you are in red or yellow and not to believe anything that voice says, right? Second step, slow down and breathe. You get your nervous system. But the third step, the go for a feel good habit, sounds so simple, but it's Rick Hansen who talks about it. I always forget him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. So he talks about the implicit memory is wired to only remember negative memories. And so
Right.
when you really anchor that feel good habit, you embody it, you extend it for as long as you can, your implicit memory opens up to these positive memories and starts being able to hold them and not just hold negative memories. And with you, it's like everything you do, whether you brush your teeth or take a walk or prepare for the 90-minute class, like just do it from a 10. Like
Yeah.
just find a way to do it from a 10
Yeah.
and anchor and
Yeah.
anchor and anchor, even the simplest thing, because we're literally training our brain to be able to start
Yeah.
retaining these level 10
Yeah.
memories instead of the
Right.
three.
Good point, girl.
Hmm.
Wise woman.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes.
Well, it's just
Yes.
coming, you know, it's then it doesn't always do that. You know, I've been in a bunch of conversation with TLC people and this this is my favorite when we get to be like that with each other. You said
Yeah.
something at the beginning about when I said let's find, maybe there's a way to play together. You said you have the energy of that. What do you remember what you said? Then I interrupted you to see if you could if I could record. Is the energy of collaboration? Is that what it was?
Um, the energy of inclusion and wonder and open to possibility and that willingness to let go of what it is that could be evolve, right, and not be attached to the outcome. Just let's see where it goes. Let's play, play with
It's
the idea.
always better when, for me, I call it God. Like it's always better. I talked to Mary Morrissey the other day, and you know how Mary is. She's like,
Yeah,
"What's the outcome you want from this call?" And I'm like, "Shit." I'm sure she wants like a precise outcome. So I said, "Well, my spiritual self just wants to be in the quantum field of infinite possibilities and see what happens." And then my human self, because she wasn't at my talk, and so I was
yeah,
presenting it to her. I said, "My human
yeah,
self wants you to fall in love with my work and want to collaborate with me." But it was funny because really that to me, even that Mary collaborates with me, that could be like 1% of something even more extraordinary
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
happens. And I've just
yeah,
learned that over time. Like
yeah,
what I
yeah,
predict is so boring. Even my greatest dreams are like nothing to what's actually possible.
yeah. Well, we are our own limiter. Yeah.
I got to share something with you. I haven't shared this with many people, but you were so vulnerable in sharing some of your insecurities, when you were saying about the course, like it's got nothing to do with me. So I want to share something I did talking to Natalie that I
Mm,
literally beat myself up for 12 hours and I had to do all this work. Ooh, I can still feel it to forgive myself. And
oh,
so I'm going to share with you. So she asked me to speak to her March 8th to her group. And so we were talking the second time to say, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to present? And you know what I did? Three times, three times I told her how many people, how many invitations have come because of my talk. And the third time was the worst. The third time was like, oh, and you're so special to me because you were the first one to invite me. And I hung up and I was like, what was that, Isabel? And I was like, I don't believe, even though she asked me already, this was a call to confirm. I still don't believe that she sees my value, right? In my worst case scenario, she's going to be like, no, I don't want you. So I was still trying to sell her on my value. And oh my God, Cheryl, I hung up. I mean, I was in the red zone of my critic, like this, and then I was like, Isabel, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. There's still a part of you that believes life is going to fall apart, right? Because that's what
yeah,
my childhood.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
when I step into a bigger game, that fear comes up, and I can count
yeah,
on it showing up and
yeah,
be compassionate with myself. So I don't know how to, it's very vulnerable to share it because it's really a non-pretty side of me. So I'm
yeah,
wondering how
yeah.
it lands with you.
Oh, I think it's perfect because, here's the thing. As teachers and as people who are here to allow others to step into their greatness and step into their belief of the possible, if we don't share sometimes part of our own insecurities, part of our own fears, they will never believe they can do it.
I like that. I like the way you just said that. Yeah.
So, right? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I knew that, of course, but it's like the way you just said it made me even more inspired because I'm somebody who's very transparent, as you might know. But
Yes,
but
yes,
like I really like that. They won't believe they can do it. Right.
yeah. So even if it seems insignificant to you, even if it's like, or if it seems over the top to you, um, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be something simple that you share. And and it has to be heartfelt,
Yeah, right. Not a
right?
shtick. It's not my shtick. I always track like if my vulnerability can ever become a shtick
Yeah,
because that's what people
yeah,
know me as. And one of the things I've
yeah.
noticed about my vulnerability, I have also used it to keep myself small. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like I use
Mm-hmm.
it, I share a lot about my struggles, and my husband
Mm-hmm.
is always like, why do you always have to share? I'm like, well, I want people to feel normal. I always want to take away shame about our imperfections, but I sometimes actually go too far on the end of that
Mm-hmm.
continuum.
Right.
And I have a really much harder time celebrating my successes and
Yeah.
like talking about this, so do you have that too or not? Tell
Oh,
me about
sure.
you. Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of at the other end of that, though. I am uh, not comfortable sharing the deepest vulnerabilities with, when I'm with a group or I'm with, my clients. Um, and I've always said that to me, I've said it to myself that, um, when I'm in front of a client, it's not about me. So they don't need to know about me, right? And every once in a while I'll let something slip in, but typically I don't.
Mm.
And that may or may not be the right thing to do, right?
Well, what
And
do you know?
so,
What have you
yeah,
what have you learned? I imagine you have experience to back you up about whether it's the right or not the right thing to do.
yeah, it depends on the client.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because of who I am and the way I work. And I swear to God, so many of my clients say when they refer me to other people, they say so often,
Mm.
I don't know how she does what she does, but she's amazing. It's hard to describe why things change. They just don't really know what just happened, kind of a thing, right? And I just started laughing after a few years. I was like, oh my God. And this was a part of the reason why I never could believe that this could be translated in anything. Couldn't even be translated into a class,
Mhm.
training
Mhm.
coaches or whatever.
Mhm.
And so I've gotten over that part. And um, the part about my sharing too much vulnerability is still there, you know.
Meaning what? It's still there. Meaning like you're willing to do it, or you're saying you're still struggling with doing it.
Oh, it's measured, right? So the deepest, darkest thing, no, not going there. Not
It's such
going
an
there.
interesting word when you said it's measured.
Hmm.
That is so much that would be a word that would really fit. Like it's like on your buffet of qualities of states of being that I when I connect with you, measured is one of them. And I imagine it does that fit for you that just in your
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Oh,
for me,
yeah.
imagine there with some with
Yeah.
CEOs and corporate, that would make such like they want that, right? But what is the cost of you being measured, all the
Well,
time?
what's so interesting is that has been part of I don't think of it as a formula, but I just thought of it as formula. My success process, right, has been that. And, um, you know, a lot of my own spiritual growth has happened over the years in nature, going
Mm.
out in nature with a teacher that we have, and who believes nature is the cathedral. We don't need buildings and all of that stuff, and it's it's powerful work. And for years, because we go out and it's a 12-day process. For 7 of those days, we are all alone, each one of us, off somewhere, in a campsite, on the side of the beach, on the side of a mountain,
Wow.
dealing with all of our own stuff, right?
7 days.
Every fear you ever have comes up. I mean,
Like a vision quest.
oh my God, it is. Yeah, it is. though there are distinct differences between Vision Quest and what this is. And he is very clear about that, because this is, you know, there are a lot of people who call things Vision Quests that are not, and they're not honoring the proper
What's his
approach.
name?
And John Milton.
Of course. Yes, yes, yes. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So for years, I would not tell my clients that I did stuff like that, because I thought, I mean, these, you know, corporate people, corporate
Yeah.
CEO, because I thought they're going to think I'm off my rocker. They're going to think I'm a crazy person, and I just won't do that. And I wouldn't talk about the universe once, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't do that. And, you know, when I was doing all the training with John, there would be a lot of Eastern teachings that he would completely download. And there's no one in particular that is, you know, the path to follow, right? It's very much a blending of Western and Eastern. And he would talk about the entities, and he would talk about, you know, the different perspectives, and everybody in the group could remember the names of the entities, what they said, you know, what their premise is, what all of that. And I would not. I would not remember. And he would talk about the name of the specific practice, and I would not remember. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with me? You know? And so after a while, I went to John. I said, okay, this is a problem. You know, I can't remember. I can't, blah, blah, blah. He said, don't worry about it. I'm like, don't worry about it. He goes, yeah, don't worry about it. Okay. So, you know, I would go, okay. And I would go away, and still happening, come back again. John, this is making me a little crazy. I mean, everybody else remembers they can even recite what these, you know, people said, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, don't worry about it. And I would say, oh, it's so hard for me to meditate. I can't keep my eyes closed. You know, I sit quietly, but all this stuff, right? He'd say, don't worry about it. I'm like, and so then I start thinking, oh man, he must think that it's really impossible for me to do any of this. So I should just be, you know, not worry my little head about this, right? And so one day I was sitting, and there are 12 principles that that John has created over the years, you know, about this whole practice, this whole way of being. And the 13th principle is, and don't take any of these principles too seriously. You know, it's like, okay. And so one day I was sitting in a client's office and was talking to them, and all of a sudden I heard what I was saying, and I realized that this is all the study that I've been doing all these years. It's just different language. This is interesting. And so then I began to understand, okay, this is why John said, don't worry about it. Because if I was so focused on, you know, what the Buddha said, or what this, you know, Taoist teacher said, or, you know, and really applying it to those stories, and it would have gotten in my way of being present in that world, the world that I am in, trying to help those individuals expand their presence and their being, and open their hearts and all of that. And it was like, in that moment, I got it. I was like, oh my God. And so then next time I saw John, I said, this is what I have experienced. He goes, yep, that's why you shouldn't worry about it. You know, and I'm like, Okay, so you knew this, but you didn't tell me.
Right.
No, 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 because then you
Uh,
would have worried about it.
well, you got to track all the stories you had about not knowing until you
Oh
actually
yeah.
found the truth.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love
It was
that.
fascinating. It was
Oh,
fascinating. So, I after that, I did start telling people some of the things I did. And they did think I was crazy. It was like, huh? How do you
mm,
do that? Oh my God, by yourself? Oh my God, I mean, and I'd be like, yeah. And
mm.
why do you do it? And I'd say, I do this so that I can deal with my own stuff. So I don't get in the way of you while we are
Oh, that's
dealing with you.
mm,
And, I mean, and it's true.
mm.
I mean, anybody who works with people, they should know if they don't deal with their own stuff, they're never going to be able to get out of the way. They're never going to be able to be present fully to help that person show up fully. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So, yeah. So, it's all, um, I mean, it's been this way for me for so long. People in our business will say to me, so what methodology do you use? And I used to go, uh, well, it's kind of a blending of cognitive and spiritual. Yeah, but what methodology do you use? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, for God fucking sakes. I know that those exist. I know I've read about them. I know I've, been to seminars. I know all this stuff. And in that moment, it's like, well, I I just am. I just be with
Presence,
them.
the
Yeah.
methodology of presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like
And,
that.
not that I don't have specific things I take people through because I do, and there are
Uh-huh.
some things that are non-negotiables um and I also allow the work to flex given what's going on with the individual. So I don't hand them a syllabus and say, this is what we're going to do this month, this is what we're going to do next month, and this is where we're headed. I don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was I was asked, I think about 10 years ago by a teacher. He wrote the book, The Slow Down Diet, one of the best books out there. He wanted me to speak at his school. And so he said, what are your greatest hits? I'm like, what are you talking about? I had been a therapist for 20 years. I had he's like, well, what are the things that people always seem to remember? And that was when I started, and maybe it was 8 years ago. I don't remember how long ago. And so at that point, I had the stress scale,
Mm.
which looked like a traffic light. And then I had the feel good scale. And people always understood they were not combined together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it took me years to then combine them together. Then Brian came up with the triangle, and then it became a methodology. 3 steps didn't exist till about 3 years ago.
Mm.
So all people would do is like figure out where they were on the scale, and often that would be enough. Awareness sometimes is enough. And then I just say,
Yes.
well, breathe. Um, and so, yeah, it's very unusual for me because I am therapy trained to have developed
Sure.
methodology. But what
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
about it is that, I was talking to Ray and he was saying, I used it with myself, which I've heard a lot, but I used it with the client too. So he was already able to take it
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this woman who's a dancer who had fear. And so her
Mhm.
feel good habit was movement. And so she
Ah,
just came
yeah,
right back
yeah.
into her body away from her anxiety she had about
Yeah,
public
yeah.
speaking.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I get the thing about it's so strange to have a structure, but it's helpful. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
way, then that's a great way that the work can spread beyond us. I'm just
Right.
realizing this as I
Right.
say it. Like I didn't
Oh,
think about
yeah.
it
Very
now.
true. Very, very true.
Mm.
And it's funny you say therapy training. I have my MSW, and I um, went to USC in LA and knew that I wanted to go into corporate work. And USC at the time had a dual track of mental health. I mean, every track you had to do mental health. You couldn't. That was a non-negotiable. And for this specific discipline, my track was organization development and human potential
Mm.
and systems thinking, right? And so it was perfect. And I went right from that into corporate. And my professors and the director of the program were all very disappointed that I went directly into corporate, because in my internships, I had done several different things. And one of the things I had done was therapy, right? So I was a therapist on campus. And so one of my colleagues at school said, "Oh my God, you are Gary's favorite, the director." I said, "What? Why?" Said, "Well, because he just sees you as so successful. You're the role model for therapists." I'm like, "How does he even know what I do?" And she said, "Well, what he knows is that the clients keep coming back to you." And then, he queries people along the way and learns what goes on in there. I was like, "Oh, well, that's interesting."
That's the
You
good.
know?
Love having
You
that
know,
support. I'm wondering, because we've got what, about 15 minutes. I wonder, because we were talking about structure methodologies, I wonder if you would be willing to like enter for a few minutes, because I remember you telling me how you experienced the methodology. So I wonder if you'd be willing to switch into, like, I was at Isabel's talk, like something like, would you be willing to play with that?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
sure,
do
sure.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So do I need to ask you any questions? No, you know how to do this.
If you want, but I can start talking and then you can jump in if you want to
And if
have
not, I'll
something
zip it, because if
specific.
not, Zoom will then switch our videos. So I might zip it till you're done. Okay.
Okay.
We'll see.
So, okay. So about a month ago, I was with, okay, I'll start over. Let's see.
I love how seriously you're doing this. Thank you.
Well, it's important. So about a month ago, I had the benefit of experiencing Isabel Tierney. And we were in New Orleans, a beautiful, fun city. And we were with a group of highly intelligent, highly spiritual people who will go into the world and change the world, right? I mean, that's who we were hanging out with. When Isabel got on the stage, nobody really knew what to expect because she's pretty new to the group. And what happened in that moment was an explosion of energy and truth and connection, true connection from her to all of us. And, there were about 80 people in the room. And for someone to be able to touch that many people in a moment is brilliant. Now, it may sound like what Isabel has to teach is simple, and that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. Because though it may appear simple, it is so profound. People are so able to grasp the concept and apply it and remember it. This is beautiful because you don't see that very often. Yeah, you see people get on the stage and talk about what they know and say, "You can do it too," and they leave, and people say, "Oh, great." And then the next day they say, What did they really say? I don't remember." This doesn't happen with Isabel. Her work is something that people embody, and they will walk away and they will remember and they will catch themselves and they will say, "Oh yeah, what zone am I in?" And the more they do it, the more it becomes kind of second nature. It's brilliant and I love it. And we are so thankful that we are able to receive her gift. So congratulations, Isabel, on all your years of work, all your years. I don't want people to think that this is an overnight sensation. You have really earned this. You have created this over time. It really matters, and now is the perfect time for it to be moved into the world because we need it. Thank you.
I feel like I'm going to say something strange because I know you are the one who did it, but it feels like you almost feels like you channeled this. Like it felt like the purest, brightest light, like just like support from our guides coming together for you to say this, to say these words that were, they were just like white light. I don't, tell me about how you felt. Maybe this is, I guess, well, this is what I do when I want to help people, but it just felt really potent what you did.
So this is what I do when I help people. I mean, see, this is the part that early in my career, it was like, well, yeah, I mean, isn't that what everybody does? It's like, no, not everybody does this. Oh, well, okay. Well, then how do you do it? I don't know. I mean, this is, real early in my career. I didn't understand. I didn't know why. I mean, I obviously had some structured training, but I think again, that allowed me to move into the world with what I did, right? And I wasn't even aware of that.
Well, it seems like you get out of the way. I don't know if you said that earlier or whether, you
Yes,
get
I
out of
did.
the way,
Yeah,
so
I get
that's,
out of the way.
yeah.
That's
And
right.
it's like, it's like a veil lifts off you or
Yeah,
something. There's
yeah,
like, it's like your any kind of human protection lifts off you and
that's
you
right. That's right.
just speak. So to be the
Yeah,
recipient of that, I was not expecting it. And I mean, I got teary at one point because it's like you covered everything. You covered the simplicity, you covered the piece about the how many years of work, right? It's you and people like you and I, we know how many years of work
yeah,
it takes to develop a body of
right.
work.
That's right.
And just the way you acknowledge that. Thank you. Thank you. How can I
It's my
serve
pleasure.
you? How can
My
I,
pleasure.
what can I do for you?
Oh, um, well, if you want to send out an email about my online session, that'd be great, to your audience. That'd be great.
Okay. So can we play for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What level on a 1 to 10 was that request?
Oh man. Do you know how uncomfortable it is for me? It
Yeah, that's
is,
why I'm playing with you.
oh
That's
my
why I
God.
asked your
It
permission.
is so uncomfortable for me. It
Oh, you know
has,
what? We have a
yeah,
saying in my community that I've invented. It's called up until now. So just say up until now, it's been really
up until
uncomfortable.
now, it
Yeah.
has been really uncomfortable
Okay.
for
So
me
you're
until
playing with
now.
me. You're
And
playing with me. Remind me about the power of your work and why you feel so inspired to bring it to larger groups so that my sending this email out is in answer to that mission. So will you try it like that and ask the request again as high as you can?
yeah. For years, I have known and I have helped my clients experience the level of deep self-awareness that is only achieved by deep probing work. And it has to go beyond what the common definition of deep self-awareness is. And that's where I take my clients. And so, it's kind of a thing where if I tell people, what is your work about, bringing people to that level of deep self-awareness, they're like, yeah, okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, great. So I mean, I have information that I can feed to you. I have emails I can feed to you. I have all that,
No, I'm sorry.
which
I was not
then you
enrolled.
don't have to make it
I
up,
was not
right?
enrolled. I was not enrolled. I didn't understand that you were wanting me to email for a 90-minute class. Can you tell me about the night? You totally skipped all that. You're going back. Why do I want to send to my list about your
Mm,
90-minute class?
mm,
What are my people going to get?
mm, mm, yeah. And so in our Lead with Spirit 90-minute session, 90-minute masterclass that I do, it's free to anyone who wants to be there. And the reason is it's an introduction to the possibilities of where you can take your own leadership, where you can help other people take their leadership. It's an introduction to looking beyond the common definition of deep self-awareness. It's an introduction to looking at how do you embody the practices, and how do you get the practices to the point where you don't even know you're practicing anymore. That really takes a way of being and a way of seeing that most people don't have the opportunity, don't have access to.
So I'm going to ask you a question. When people do that, when they have access to this way of being, how do they feel differently in their life?
Everything changes. Everything. Their relationships, their personal relationships change, their relationships to people they work with, their relationships to how they view their life in this world, how they view their purpose for being. Everything changes. And it can happen so instantly. It can happen over time. But when it happens, it's fascinating because it's almost as if they don't notice because it's been evolving, whether it's over a day or it's over a month or it's over a year. It still feels like part of them because it's embodied, right? It's not a head game. We're not teaching about the intellect of leadership. We don't need that. People don't need to know the steps of, how you do marketing strategy. There's plenty of information about that out there. People don't need to know what the steps of conflict resolution are. There's plenty of information out there, and they've done that, they've trained in that, and they don't remember what it is. And you never see it being used. So that's not where the power is. The power is within. The power is within deeply. And if we can help people touch that, we can change lives. And that's what you're going to have access to.
Do you want that clip of your whole thing?
Yes. Yes.
And I want you to do
Thank you.
Do you have an editor?
Yes.
Okay.
I have somebody who can do that.
What I want you to track is two things.
Yeah.
So one is,
let me write this down.
Okay. One is just notice how when I asked you the question, just notice your aliveness. That's what I want you to notice. And then notice as a listener at the beginning, and I was tough, right? I purposely put on my tough lenses of a straight.
Oh, good. I think that's important. Yeah.
And the first, it was beautiful, the words you were using, deep self-awareness. What I was thinking, I'm like, well, I don't know if I want self-awareness. Like, what am I going to get if I'm self-aware? So track the beginning and well, would that entice somebody? And then when I asked that, then you started going. And then when I asked you what they get, even it felt like you became more and more actually integrated with your passion. It's almost like you were acting out your passion at the beginning, and at the end you were being your passion. So do you feel that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that you don't have to use the whole clip. That's why I'm asking you. I think so. There were three parts. They were what you first said. Then I forget if I asked you a question, you did another thing, and then I asked you the question about outcomes.
Right.
So you might use just 2 and 3 or 3, but I think you'll want to use part 2 and 3. But not the first. The first, especially since it's beginning, I would not.
Yeah.
So I will send you YouTube, and what I will do is I will tell you where you are at, and then I'll make sure you have access to be able to edit that part.
Great.
Okay, so that you can pull it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and then you know what you can do with this, right? You can send this in via emails. You can do this can be so. All right. Well, it was a delight to connect, and let's see how we can, what can unfold between us.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel like, okay, I have a story. My story is that I resonate, one of the reasons I resonate with you, if we keep very simple states of being, is your measuredness, because my greatest gift and curse is my enthusiasm. And my curse is because it's hard to stay contained enough, right? So what you saw on that
Mm,
stage was years of learning to contain that. I have so much life force.
right, right,
And
right.
then I imagine that maybe what I represent for you is this more uncontained, unmeasured life force. And so it's like we're complementary of each other.
Yeah, 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 for sure,
But does that
for
fit for you?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you there when on Saturday when we did the difficult
Yeah, I was
conversations?
one of the facilitators.
Oh, God, yes. Okay. So when you saw me on stage, what was your experience with me, if you can remember?
I'd have to listen to it again. Hold on, let me just see if I can see. Okay. I think the reason I was taking time is because I felt awkward to tell you the truth. I feel like you showed up at a 7 and I get to see you at a 10. And so,
Yeah,
just like when we see our clients at a higher level, so it was fine. It was very good. It was very polished. It was funny. I remember you having, and it's like when I know you now, like brighter, like I want you to turn up
yeah,
your
yeah,
brightness.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What did you feel?
Yeah, I felt good that I came across as clear and
Yes.
connected. And
Yes.
it was interesting. People came to me afterwards. A lot of people came to me and said, I'm so glad you guys did this. It was so amazing. And I'd say, well, you guys, I mean, you just really took it. I mean, thank God you just got in your circles and you really, took this to heart and made it work. And they would say, no, but you got to know, you made it so safe.
Sure.
I heard that so many times. You made it so safe. And so, um, you know,
Yeah. So I'm going to change my number
yeah,
because really I measured it was not right. I was still on the thing about aliveness and enthusiasm, and I was measuring you like that. If it's a measure of you created safety and structure and clarity for people, which I actually think was vital for us to all break up, because
yeah,
remember what a
yeah,
messy it was to try to make it. And it's like
yeah.
you held that. So I actually give you a 10. So I actually thank you for that. You changed what I was looking for
Oh,
as the
interesting.
value, you
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know this was not
Interesting.
about you being seen. It was about you providing safety and
Yeah,
clarity because
yeah,
it was a bit messy for us to get there.
yeah, yeah.
And everybody, look, there was not one group, I think, that was confused.
No, I
You
mean, it
know,
was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
All
thank you
right.
for that. All right, my
Yeah, it's
dear.
my
I
pleasure.
appreciate you. Let's stay connected.
I would really
Yeah.
like that. Let's do that within a
Okay.
couple month or so. Okay.
Okay,
Talk to you
great.
soon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, yeah. And
Bye-bye.
send me all the information for the email.
Thank you. I
All
will
right.
do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye.